Has anybody here played with Workspaces, Amazon Workspaces, or read about at all? Some people have played. So, just for those that, I don't know what technical level we're at here, but what Workspaces is it's a virtual desktop. So you have your desktop on your PC, your Mac, or your tablet that you usually use. And what it is it's more taking that desktop environment, your applications, your files and everything, and putting it up in the cloud. So it's really like, I know a lot of businesses do it where somebody might be working from home and they might get remote access into their PC at work because they want to separate out their personal life from their work life and not meld it all together. So really what you end up with is a desktop that's a Windows 7 environment. So if you're familiar with Windows 7, if you're a Mac user like Joe, you just got to adapt. And there's all your programs and files. Some people who are around the Windows environment may be familiar with terminal services, or what Microsoft now call RDS, where you would have a server and all your staff would log into that server and have more of a shared environment. The problem with that is you would install one program and it's shared amongst all the users, which creates a lot of problems. The great thing about VDI or Workspaces is every user has got their own desktop. So if you change the background or you install a program, it's yours. You've got the CPU, memory, and all those resources allocated just for you. You're not sharing it with everybody else. So you don't then have to worry about somebody running a memory-intensive program and slowing down everybody else because they're doing that. The other great thing about Workspaces is it's not only for PCs and Macs, but there's an app out there on the iOS and the Android app stores, so you can download their apps there and get straight in. I think from memory all you need to set it up is a registration code when you first connect, but then from then on in, all you need is a username and password and you're in. So what are the benefits of Workspaces? So there's no device setup. There's your initial setup that you'll do like you would with any PC, Mac or tablet, but after that, that's it. So if you have your device stolen or anything like that, or drop it in the ocean, you don't have to worry about losing all those files or having to set everything up again. Also, as an administrator, you've got central management and control over it. And if you're a business that's worried about your intellectual property and you're worried about staff having that information on their home PC or something like that, this actually gives you a good separation between personal and work. So your staff can install whatever crazy programs they want on their own local PC, but that work environment is kept in the cloud and kept separate. So if they leave the company or something like that, all you'd have to do is disable the cloud workspace account and they can just move on. No having to, I know a lot of companies that have a BYO device set up, sometimes there's sensitivity around the technicians wanting to get that personal laptop back so that they can make sure all the company files are gone. With Workspaces, you wouldn't have to worry about that, so you can keep those things all separate and not have to intrude on somebody's personal device. The other thing is cost effectiveness. I was talking to a client on the weekend trying to ascertain whether they'd be interested in Workspaces, and they straight away assumed that this would be something that would cost about $200 to $500 per user was their last estimate by using Citrix. But yeah, the prices for Workspaces start at $35, which is that's for their standard workspace, and it's pretty good. I've been able to play YouTube videos off that, and I must say it's a little bit staggered, well, not staggered, a little bit stuttery, but if you were watching a work presentation or something like that, it'd be great. If you wanted to watch your 3D movie or something running in high definition or something, it's not really designed for that sort of thing. But definitely for a work environment, the standard one would be enough, and there is a more advanced one. I haven't played with that, but I believe see the slides later, I think it's got twice the performance of the standard one. Also, once you've got your users working in the cloud, well, if you've already got your servers up there in Amazon, they're sitting side by side. So instead of having to worry about a hybrid scenario where you've got your users working from home and different networks and things like that, those complications are taken out of it, because as soon as they can just remote into this desktop environment, they're sitting right next to your AWS servers. So the traffic and everything's secure, and that jump between is nothing. And on-premise still have support for the hybrid environment, so you can actually do links, and I'll show you some diagrams later, of where you can link up between your on-premise and your cloud. So a lot of people today do their backups or have some of their servers that are most effective in the cloud. Keep your legacy programs that you still haven't got the time to bring up to date, still keep them on premise, but then have a VPN and an Active Directory sync so you can still keep it all centrally managed and kind of act like a central single network. Oh, and there's no setup needed for a VPN. So when I mentioned VPN before, that was more if you wanted to have some sort of connection to some legacy servers inside your office, but for the actual users to connect to this environment in the cloud, all they need is to download one simple little app, and that's it. Username, password, and they're in. So it's very user-friendly. So this is an example here. I just took some quick screenshots today. Basically, as an administrator, when you sign up a new user, they'll get a link to this page here where you've got your links here for your tablet applications and then your desktop for Mac and PC. So all they need to do is simply click on that, click install, and they'll get this sort of window here which just asks their username and password. The other good thing I found was on the tablet versions, they've actually thought about how it's different from a PC or Mac where you've got a mouse. So they've actually, and I've seen this on a few other RDP applications in iOS and Android, but they've got this menu off to the side which you can flick on, which just gives you some common, quick changes there, so you can have an on-screen keyboard and those sort of things. So now the cost and those sizes of the instances. I'll put a quick summary here, but basically there's 4 choices that you've got, and you can probably break it down to being 2 speeds. So you've got your standard, which gives you the Windows 7 with 1 CPU and, if we round it up, 4 gig of memory and 50 gig of storage. And then over here you've got the performance one, which I was talking about earlier, which I haven't quite tested through its runs yet of what I can do with it, but it's got twice the CPU, twice the memory, and twice the storage space. Now in between those you've got these plus packages. Now they're exactly the same in performance-wise, but you're paying only an extra $15 more a month, and you're getting a full Microsoft Office package. So you're getting Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Outlook, Publisher, and Access. Plus you're getting Trend Micro security there. I don't know the details about that. Maybe you guys in the future might want to talk about those sort of things. But yeah, the Trend Micro, so you don't have to worry about antivirus, because that is one thing that is often overlooked, is that security aspect, especially when you've got users coming in. But also with this, you can BYO any licenses. So if you've got your own in-house applications that you want to bring up there, should be no problems with bringing those across. Providing they're compatible with Windows 7, obviously. So I think I've already touched on this a bit, but I've just got a bit of a funny comic there between Workspaces and the traditional. I actually come from a traditional background where I was actually doing This bit over here, this poor fella, managing a Citrix solution. I think, what was it, start of last year, the company I was with back then, we actually spent a good time trying to work out how to do a Citrix solution on AWS. And I think we ended up needing 5 to 10 servers and all this sort of management and overhead. And I mean, AWS is cheap, but I don't think it was the price that scared us really, it was the complexity and the amount of management. And I also got wind then, once we were pretty far down the track, that something like Workspaces was on the horizon, so we kind of put things on hold. But I think at the time, the cheapest we could price it for a client of any size from small to large was, I think we were looking at about $150 a user. And from talking to other people in the Citrix community that did servers and things like that, they looked at $150 per user, but that was only if they had about 200 to 500 users minimum. So AWS was helping us there to have a 40 user environment at only $150 per user, but still, $150 was the cheapest that we could do it. So to actually to get in at $35, I'm pretty excited about the possibilities of Workspaces. So, demo time. Thought I'd just break in the middle to give you guys a demo of Workspaces for those that haven't seen it before. So actually we've been running the Workspaces the whole time. So while Jared was doing his demo and my slideshow here, this is actually Workspaces. You'll actually probably notice we've got the Apple toolbar on the top, yet we've got the Windows toolbar down the bottom. So we're actually, this is it. So I've got Google Chrome up. And this is what you're presented with when you're using it on a standard desktop. If we were in the tablet version, over to the side here would be that little shortcut bar that comes out. But so I can jump on anywhere in the world. Although I did have problems at YVR Airport, but I think that's because they just locked down everything there. And I'm sure there's a way around that. So this coupled with my Google Apps, I mean, I really don't have to do much at all. It's just in, I've got my files, they're synced to my desktop, and I'm away, I'm working again. So I actually did a blog, a 1-week blog based on my experiences with Workspaces, which I'll show you guys the link for later. If anybody is reading that, there is a lot of improvements that have happened since then. When I was trying it out, it was on the beta testing. So I think one of the comments I made in it, for example, was it was a little bit tricky at the time for users because they had to download 2 applications to sync to their desktop. Now they've actually bundled it all into one application. And what those 2 applications are is there's the Workspaces, which you run. I just get a shortcut here to Workspaces, which I run there, and that'll prompt me for my username and password. But there's also another application that installs at the same time, which is Sync, which is a bit like using Dropbox. So it'll sync your My Documents and any other folders that you want to actually add to that, and sync that to your local desktop. So therefore, if you're away, you don't have internet access, you can't access your desktop through Workspaces, you could actually still work offline on those files on your local PC. So that's, I think they have really thought about a lot of the different scenarios in that. It's still a little bit rough around the edges, but I have seen there's updates coming out all the time about it. My application, every couple of weeks I get some sort of update and something new that seems a bit more slick has come out. So from a user point of view, I think it's great. I think users should love it. From an admin point of view, there's still a little bit of work there to do, but I think it's a great start that they've made there. And like all things Amazon, they normally give you the raw tools to start off with, and then I always like the fact that they give you that flexibility to bind in things. And I'll just show an example of that. I whipped this up this morning quickly, just to give people an idea of how you might structure workspaces in the AWS environment. So this is probably the traditional way that somebody might do it. You might just have your workspace environments, one per user. You've got a tablet user there, and then you might use AWS to manage your users. Now, on top of that, if you've got an Active Directory already in your office where you control your users, you can actually do a sync between the AWS and your on-premise Active Directory. Or you might want to just have your own Active Directory in the cloud sitting right next to it and sync straight there, plus sync back to your on-premise. So therefore you can have your Active Directory as a backup. And then you've got your other servers, so even though you get 50 gig storage or 100 gig storage for your workspaces, you might actually want a file server to actually have everybody's data all kept in the one spot and all collaborating on that. And then if you break out from there, you might have some legacy database, legacy email system there. You might want to have a VPN connection then between them so that your workspace users can tap into those programs and databases. And then on top of that, you might start expanding a bit more, have your website in AWS and do your on-premise backups to AWS so you don't have to worry about tape backups and taking them offsite anymore. So it really works in well. I think when Amazon announced this at reInvent at the end of last year, I think some people were questioning why is Amazon getting into this user space? They've been doing a great job at looking after this server bit, this top half here, but why are they getting into the user space when it's not really? I think it actually makes a good overall picture. It has a good full solution there where you can have everything running from the cloud if you want, or you can have a hybrid. Maybe you want your servers on-premise and your users in the cloud, or switch it around to the traditional way where you have your servers in the cloud, or all two. Yeah, have it all in the cloud. So that gives you guys a good overview. Maybe it sparked your interest into looking into it a bit more. If you guys have any questions about workspaces, wouldn't claim to be the expert, but I have been trying it and testing it and actually using it for my day-to-day work for quite a while now, and I've been finding it quite solid. Did anybody have any?
Yeah, I have some questions.
Yep.
You were saying that you were able to run YouTube. Were you able to actually receive audio?
Yeah. Okay. So that was probably the bit that pointed out to me that there was a little bit of jitter. Yeah. It matched up pretty well. Like, it wasn't like the video went on without the audio. The audio and video were in sync and working. It was just every 2 seconds you would have just a half second of blank or something where it would just skip for a second in the audio. Video played fine, right, but it was the audio that you could notice a little bit.
So it sounds like AWS supports both audio out and audio in.
Yep.
And the other thing I questioned was with respect to, Microsoft VDI type of platform, USB redirection works really quite well. How does USB redirection work on here in the sense that if you put your USB key or a webcam or a USB printer, will that actually function?
Okay, so I think I've tried the USB hard drive and I'm pretty sure that worked well. I think I've added another drive in there. I'm actually using USB pointer at the moment to run these slideshows through the workspaces. I didn't have to install anything tricky. We only bought this actually 2 seconds before this presentation, so plugged it in and went, I wonder if this will work. And yeah, it just worked. So yeah, the USB bit, I think I've had the pains as well in the past with terminal services and things like that, having to mess around with, I think we used to buy a third-party application to actually do some printer port mapping and things like that. I'm not sure about the printer part, but I mean, it really depends if you're using this for a single use, but if you're probably using it for a company-wide use.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm thinking about, is like remote office.
Yeah. So I'm working with a company at the moment that's actually doing it like a global office. They're actually based in over in Abu Dhabi, and they're wanting to have people in the Philippines and in the US and everywhere to offer a 24/7 solution. And they're actually trying to design it so that it's as though it's one office, just that everybody's sitting in different desks all over the world, but to see it as if they were sitting in the one same office. So we're looking at doing something like that, where they would have a central servers in the cloud, they'd have their workspaces all connecting to that, and then if they have printers, we haven't explored that yet, but I would imagine that we would just we would find there's so many ways to attack it, sort of thing, but you could have your server sharing out those printers if you have a central location where you want to print to, or if it's the home local printer. I'm pretty sure you'd be able to get that mapped through here. Maybe if you got some older printer, might not work, but worst case you'd be able to use something like Apple Airport, I think it is, or the Google Print. If you got the cloud print sort of things, that'd be your fallback worst case scenario sort of thing. But I'm pretty sure how easy I found this, it would work out of the box.
We're here to talk about security and specifically optimizing it for AWS environments. And to talk about the cloud, I think it's good if we actually sort of understand a little bit more of that environment and what's going on there. And Amazon does a great job of explaining that, and I'll kind of quickly run through this. This is they describe their infrastructure as low cost, agile and elastic, open and flexible, and secure. And it's that last bit that's really important, really crucial, and lucky that actually they focus on security for us as consumers of that service. Because the cloud, as you probably imagine, is really changing the way we think about IT. It's commoditized these services that we traditionally see in data centers. They're now available at a click of a button. And it's changing how we have to think about IT and how the IT culture is evolved. And the two teams that are typically driving a lot of the change here are the development and operations. The development obviously responsible for producing a product for a company, operations making that available, maybe understanding the customer's needs, and making sure that they have the right product for them. Unfortunately, traditionally, the challenge between the two teams is they are separated. They often don't talk to each other. So when operations come to development and tells them about a challenge, they put their head down and work on that problem. They come back to them and say, remember a year ago, you gave us a problem, here's the solution. Unfortunately, maybe it's not relevant anymore. Maybe things have moved on. They need to come up with ways of being more agile. And that's where companies that start to understand that they need to combine the two. They need to be able to make the two groups to talk together and be more sync, or more in sync. And so that combination is what we're calling DevOps. And these groups are, their goals, I should say, are to break down those silos, to change that old cycle, come up with ways of directly aligning with the business, to make sure that they're developing quickly and rapidly that product that's relevant to the company and to the customers at that time. So basically trying to create a new cycle around that. Unfortunately, security has a challenge. Security has never been really known for being speedy. And we need to be able to keep pace. So in other words, be able to deliver and enable solutions for the company and not get ignored or left behind or routed around. We need to be able to allow the company to continue to do business. So security needs to be able to keep pace with this fast-moving environment in the cloud. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And I want you to keep that in mind as we kind of go through the slides here. So of course, we're here to talk about Amazon Web Services specifically. And to understand how their approach works in the environment or in the cloud, how security is actually addressed in the cloud, we need to look at the traditional model. And the traditional model is you're basically on the hook for everything. So you're responsible for the facilities, the physical aspects, the cabling, the infrastructure, the networking and the virtual environments, and of course the operating systems, applications, and account management, meaning who has access to those systems. I'll just quickly point out those little red T-ball logos. Those are actually the Trend logo. And those are areas that we actually already help customers to this day. Now, AWS kind of and other cloud providers have really changed the game a little bit. Through that commoditization of IT services, there's a clear divide between what they're responsible and what we as the consumer of that service are responsible. So on the left-hand side, AWS has a first-class security facilities and physical security. So they're going to actually take care of those. They also take care of all the cabling, networking, and virtualization. So that's off your plate. And you can now focus on the right-hand side. That means you need to maintain the operating systems, of course, the application and data, the account management. Now they actually provide help with this. They have something called the AWS IAM, so Information Account Management. And this is a global service where you can go in and actually configure who has access to those systems, those instances. Now, you can also go in there quite easily and create an account, let's say for myself, and give me full access to all the accounts. My first tip today, don't do that. It's a bad idea. You don't want to be giving someone, or everyone in this case, full access. You want to control that security a little bit. And you should be practicing what's called the principle of least privilege. In other words, give users the amount of access and rights that they need, just enough to do their job. But don't overprivilege them. Security groups, the next section there, or the next sort of part you have to be responsible for. Think of this as kind of like the firewalls, roughly. This is where you define how the instances talk to other instances or to the internet in general. Now, it's very easy to go in there again and create a group that allows it, let's say the web server, to have full and complete access to the internet. So all ports are open, anyone can talk to them on any port. That's my second security tip here is don't do that. Again, a bad idea. You're simply opening yourself up to potential attacks and snooping. So what we want to do here is if, for example, you have a web server and let's say a load balancer, you want to create a security group that allows just enough communications between them. You really don't need to go any beyond that. So this model here, this shared security, shared responsibility model, allows us to really focus our limited resources on those components on the right-hand side. So it frees us up, allows us to really focus on those. Now I'm going to talk a little bit and take that model and let's look again at the traditional model and see how security is impacted, or how security works, I guess, in the traditional model. Now, traditionally in a data center, you have a whole bunch of servers and you've got a boundary around them. And you're going to apply some big controls of that boundary. So you've got those connections. You're going to put in a nice large firewall. You maybe put in some anti-malware gateways, maybe not yet, right? And then you simply manage those single components and that environment is secure. Fortunately, when you have such a big boundary control, it tends to break down very quickly in the cloud. The cloud is able to be made up of multiple instances located in all kinds of areas of the world. You can have the eastern seaboard, western seaboard, different virtual private clouds. That environments are so elastic that a single boundary is just simply not possible or difficult to do. So we need to take these boundary controls and push them down onto the actual instances themselves. And this provides us with two significant benefits. First of all, it's performance. By having the instance itself having the control around it, as you scale from, let's say, 5 instances to 500 or even 5,000, those controls scale with it. So you're not having to introduce a larger firewall because suddenly you have a lot more systems in place. It simply goes with it. So performance is very key. Flexibility as well. Again, it doesn't matter what these instances are, the control moves with it. If you've got multiple accounts, multiple VPCs, the controls simply are put in place wherever that instance is. This does create a couple challenges though. 2 new challenges I should say. First of all, deployment. And if you've got instances that are located in all kinds of different areas, or even thousands of them, how do you actually get these controls on there? Another problem is management. So before you had that one big control at your gateway, you simply log into your firewall, do whatever rights. Well, now you've got little controls spread throughout the environment. So again, there's a potential headache there, dealing with dozens or even thousands of instances. So how can we solve that? Well, addressing the challenge for deployment, we're actually going to solve this by not solving it. What I mean by that specifically is we already have a problem. Getting config files and other sort of software information onto instances is a general issue. It's not a new issue. It's been around for a while. If you think about security patches in the same way, that means the problem is essentially the same problem. And so instead of trying to invent something new, we're going to leverage existing channels that are already in place. And this is where the DevOps comes in. These groups or these people have actually developed a lot of tools to allow them to make this easier. And AWS actually supports this. So AWS has their own called OpsWorks. And what they're doing here, OpsWorks, they also support Chef, as I think Jared mentioned, that's a new piece, Puppet, and also Salt or Salt Stack. These are orchestration tools. They're designed to help you move information, software, etc., onto deployments. These are already in place, so if you're going to get a security tool, you want to be able to make sure it integrates and does this as well, or supports this. Our second problem was management. So if you're going to get a security control in place, you want to make sure that it has the ability to manage those instances centrally, to give a single area for the admin to log into and be able to manage multiple instances. Anyone remember who this guy is? Looks a little familiar? Perfect. Right in the back. I have him up here because he's kind of a good example of how a lot of people think about security these days. They think of just, it's a virus, I have to deal with it, remove that virus. So that's kind of security, removing computer viruses. And your average user is going to say, well, that's not a problem, I just download some software and get rid of it. No problem. Take my time, no issues. However, when we're looking at a business environment, this is a big problem. If you get a system that gets infected, you need to take that offline to deal with it. The business is no longer doing business. You got an issue. All right? And this is where the challenge comes. The number one rule of incident response is absolutely everything is on the clock. If you have a system down, they're counting the seconds and minutes before that system comes up. If it's down, you're not doing business. And you're going to start hearing from your boss. Down for even longer, your boss's boss, and up the chain, and your headache and your pressure is going to get a lot bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of walk through an incident response process and kind of compare it across the different models, looking at the traditional and looking at the cloud, and see how that's changed. Now, the incident response model, and many of you are probably already familiar with this. This is the process of dealing with some kind of incident like a piece of malware discovered in the environment. That's some fancy words there, so preparation. Basically, just get ready. Have an idea of what you're going to do when an incident occurs. Have some processes in place. Have some people, people's roles defined. Who's going to deal with it? Who's responsible for what? Of course, you get an alert. One of the first things you're going to do is identify what is actually there. Figure out what happened. First thing after that, or next thing, is containment. You're going to want to make sure that that system doesn't infect other systems. You can probably take it offline. Then eradication, get rid of the problem as fast as you can. You need to clean that system up. Then recovery, go back and get that system into business again. So that's a really key component, of course. And the last one, really, is lessons learned. And this is where you analyze what happened, understand what went wrong, how we're going to fix it, make sure it doesn't happen again. Is this making sense so far? Lots of nods. Good, thank you. So let's take that and now start applying it to a traditional process first. So we have our server, it gets infected, and we isolate it. We take it offline, unplug it, turn it off, whatever you want, to make it so it doesn't infect other systems. Now at this point, the clock starts. Okay, the boss is watching right now. So what do we do next? Click.
Go to the manual. That's interesting. There we go. Oh, back up. There we go.
There we go. Analyze. So the first thing you're going to do is analyze. So find out what happened. All right? Then we're going to verify and see, does the analysis that we came up with actually correct? Did we in fact, what happened that we think happened, and do we have the right fixes in place? Then we're going to make some adjustments, tweak some rules, maybe improve the firewall, whatever happened in that incident. Then we're going to beef up our defenses, so if we need to install some new software, make those changes. And of course, fire up our replacement. So now we're back online, the clock stopped. Hopefully you weren't down for too long. If you were, maybe you lost some business, it cost the business some money. Now let's apply this to the cloud. How does it work in the cloud? So again, we have our instance. Gets a virus, we isolate it, the clock starts. But because we're in the cloud, we can fire up another instance really quickly. So our downtime just went from minutes to hours or whatever it is. We're down to maybe even just seconds. So right away the clock stops. Okay, now the pressure's off. You're still doing business. You've got the time now to kind of go through to do the rest of your analysis, verification, adjustments, and then when you want to adjust the defenses, you apply them to that new instance or just fire up another one after that. Right? So the cloud really helps us. It takes the pressure off, and it gives us more time to understand what happened and apply some fixes. But we can do better. If we automate the instance and the replacement, the isolation and the replacement, we can actually make this system fully automated, so you're not, basically your downtime is down to seconds. The way we do this is, first of all, if you're going to choose a security control or a security product, you want to make sure that product is providing a lot of log information. So it's firewall logs, anti-malware logs. And you're going to want to monitor that. So have something in place that's looking at those logs as they come out. So that if it does see a threat, using its API in the backend, and that's the other part of profile, you want to make sure it's scriptable. It is able to call on the AWS API, which tells AWS to isolate that instance. Now, AWS has a really nice feature, you probably know auto-scaling, where you can have the system automatically fire up your instances as resources come into demand. But it also has a component of that called health check. If health check sees an instance come offline, either because it crashed or because we isolated it, it fires up a replacement. We've now automated that whole process, so you don't have to worry anymore, about manually coming in to shut down that instance and fire up a new one. We've really sped up and improved things. And like I said before, security has never been quick, but with some of these tools, leveraging the AWS functionality and some of these DevOps-style tools of automation, we're allowing security to start keeping pace with the business. So as the business comes into the cloud, if something goes down, the downtime is a lot less, the business keeps making money. In fact, interestingly enough, we've actually improved the security posture within AWS and within the cloud in general. So not only are we better and faster at keeping pace, we're actually doing a better job. And all the while, we're doing less work. Remember at the beginning that shared responsibility? We're only taking care of half of the environment that we used to have to. We're able to do it with less work. So I'm going to wrap up here with our keys to success. Now, provisioning, we've talked about that being one of our challenges. So let's use existing provisioning models out there, leverage those to reduce performance issues, allow us to scale linearly. So as the environment grows, your processes and your controls grow with you. And it keeps things simple. Having a very straightforward process like that makes the job of the admin and the security guy a lot easier, especially central management. Central management simply means that the admin doesn't have to worry about multiple different systems to log into and maintain, and keeps his headache a little smaller. And the last one, automation. The use of auto-scaling, health check, making sure instances automatically restore back into production. It's a really big win for the business. So, as you all know, I'm here from Trend Micro, and I'd like to just quickly point out that Trend does actually have a few products that work in the cloud, and work with AWS specifically. But we're a big partner of AWS, Amazon specifically. And so the three products that work with AWS is deep security. So a lot of these controls of a log creation and monitoring and API and sort of scriptable components are available in deep security, fully integrated with AWS. Now, Secure Cloud is another solution that allows you to encrypt EBS volumes. So if you do have some intellectual property, some information that you don't want to get into the wrong hands, going to the cloud can be kind of scary. You're kind of letting go of some of that control you have of your physical environment. But if you encrypt those volumes, if someone else outside your environment copies those, they simply can't run them because they're encrypted. They're only running your own environment. And that's what the Secure Cloud can do for you. And the last one, deep security for web apps. What this does is intelligent web application scanning. So we have an automatic process that checks your web service to make sure they're not missing patches, they've got some holes in it, some mistakes. But we also augment that with security experts. People actually manually go through your site on a regular basis to make sure that the logic involved in your web server doesn't have any flaws. And we provide you lots of good reporting on that. Now, those things I've mentioned about good security tools and so forth, any tool that you're going to go for, you want to make sure that they do something similar. Make sure that you got that scriptable components in the APIs and that flexibility and that central management. Those are really key components of securing the cloud. I don't know if it's going to work. It's my kind of first time trying to do this. It's, you probably know, it's QR code. Now, the talk I've done today, we have a similar one available. It was done at the AWS Summits. So this was just a few weeks ago. Mark Nunikoven is the VP of our company. He's head of our sort of cloud division. And he does actually run through and does talk a little bit more about this. And he provides excellent demos for how our product works in that environment. It's a deep security demo. So I'll leave that up for a moment. And you guys can ask any questions.